Hello and welcome to Together We Feel today. We are live with you here on this Monday morning on the West Coast, just getting into your afternoon on the East Coast, brunching in the middle. If you brunch on Monday, you probably don't brunch on Monday, do you? Oops, there goes my microphone. I don't need to throw that around. Yeah, I'm still needing more coffee. I was telling these guys earlier. Oh, Kim's here. We're going to add Kim to the stage. Hi, Kim. We're live.
Hello, I won't say anything bad.
Oh my gosh. I was just telling these guys before we got on, is like, I stack up my Mondays sometimes more than I should. At the same time, I think, I should get on earlier than I do. I should really, start these at 6 or 6:30 in the morning from the West Coast, because then the people getting ready for work can catch us on the West Coast. But also embracing all your layers. No one needs to see me that early in the morning. I don't need to see me that early in the morning. So I just embrace the fact, okay, we're just jumping from one thing to the next. So jumping in and joining you today on this Open Topic Live. We've got my friends here, Rachel Lavin, Kim Mosman, and Laura Tolosi. Great group of ladies here with us today. And excited to see how everybody's doing as we jump in and share. I like these open topics because we get to just meet everybody where they are today. What's winning for us, what's challenging us, and how we can support each other in those spaces and places. And we want to hear from you all too. So if you've got things that are challenging you, then let us know in the comments. The good news is I have a plethora of resources to support you. These ladies and so many others have their resources on our website, whether it's in a podcast episode, whether it's in past panels, whether it's on the resources page where they share all of their amazing resources of how they can support you. So let us know what you need, and we'll be happy to get that information to you. But I'll start with myself today. So today's a classic embracing layers, all the layers, feel all the things today. I've got a lot of excitement for something new that I'm creating that you ladies here on the panel are aware of. I'm not quite ready to pull the lid off what that is yet. Just know there's something really exciting to come from me and our network that's going to get unveiled as we get into this summer. So feeling very exhilarated by that. I spent a lot of time on that this weekend, feeling very exhilarated by that. Also feeling tired because I realized I got this wonderful new watch from Mother's Day for my daughters that tracks all of my steps, my sleep, all those things. And I was tracking that on my phone loosely, but I don't have my phone on me all the time, which is a good thing. So it was missing some things. So I got this watch because I wanted to kind of hone in on where I was. And it tracks your sleep. And I've known for almost 3 years now that my sleep's been messed up. July 2022, I all of a sudden magically, not so wonderfully, just could not sleep the way I'd always slept my whole entire life. Like for 52 years, I was the grand champion sleeper. Like I could win the Olympics in sleeping. And that all changed in 2022. And I can't, there's been a lot of discussions as to why I've tried all the different things to calm things before bed, supplements, lighting, food, don't have this, too late in the day, all the things. Had an at-home sleep test to see if I had sleep apnea. That came back inconclusive. All that to say, I've been working, trying to figure out this sleep thing for a while. Found out last week that my new insurance wasn't going to allow me to move through my sleep study. So very frustrated with that. And then checking my watch each day, finding out, oh my God, I'm getting anywhere from 7 to 40 minutes of deep sleep a night. And the rest is light sleep. And it's varies from 6 to 7.5 hours. Last night was really bad because we had a late night event. And so I got less than 4 hours of actual sleep last night. It's not usually that bad, but it's just been like, and I think seeing that, I'm like, I'm even more tired. I realize why. But also kind of impressed with myself because I'm like, I have been operating at kind of a high bar considering the crappy sleep I'm getting. But I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I am doing a lot of other things well. Like I've really focused in on how I'm moving my body. I'm very focused on my self-care during the day and tending to myself in emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, how I'm fueling my body, what I'm taking in content wise, who I'm surrounding myself with. And I think that's what's helped. That's why I've kept my head above water in all of this. But also just that realization, ladies, sleep matters. And because I've got a few things in my markers that my doctor's like, I'm really confident if we can figure out sleep, this figures itself out. And whether it's up and down blood pressure, if you don't think the mental, emotional, physical thing is real, my glucose levels and my, what's the word I'm looking for? A1C has been consistently in the pre-diabetic range for a couple of years now. Even now that I have done all these different things health-wise, and I'm not, and I think this is where we have to be really careful when we're talking with our practitioners. I don't fall into the category of you look at me and like, oh, she's probably pre-diabetic. Like I don't look like what society has decided that looks like. And what I have learned is it's very common in perimenopausal and menopausal women to have these glucose level shifts. Also, if you were a gestational diabetes pregnant mama or disposed for that and always had to be treated for that, you're automatically more susceptible for this coming up in midlife. And I think my sleep has a factor there because we know sleep impacts that. And so I am coming in with layers today of being super excited and also super sleepy. But also kind of impressed with myself, which probably isn't a badge of honor I should carry. But it's like, damn, I've been pretty effective in my life considering the crap sleep I'm getting. So that's where I am today on this Monday morning. Rachel, how about you, my friend?
Oh my goodness, how do I even go from there? Oh my goodness. I mean, my first thought was when you were speaking, it's like, welcome to menopause, Melissa.
I know. I know. Man. Our generation's finally blowing the lid off of that, though, because we are having these conversations and we are just like, no freaking more. We're not. So follow Dr. Mary Claire Haber, look at Tamsin Fadal's book. I mean, there's people who are finally saying, no, we're not living like this anymore. Our friend Michelle Folan has the Asking for a Friend podcast. We're blowing it up, but Rachel's right. It is, I'm convinced it has a lot and mostly all of that to do with that.
Yeah, I am dealing with that myself, not just the sleep, but just all the things. And I think I mentioned on another panel, it's like I just decided, even though there might be moments of difficulty, I have to become friends with it because it is something that's going to happen. And I want to get through it as unscathed as possible. And, you hear so many women who are even a little bit older than us. It's like, we didn't have any resources. We didn't talk about it. I mean, there's still doctors to this day who aren't comfortable having that conversation with their female patients. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about it all the time.
Absolutely. We have to. That's the only way you get information and shared resources and just the safety of feeling like you're not, because so many years, I mean, I never heard the generations ahead of me in my family mumble the word one time, yet right. They were in the thick of it. They had to be. And I'm like, geez Louise, that's insane. And I liked what you said about making friends with it. Listen, this is another season in life. And the great news now is that we are getting more and more resources. All of us on this panel have resources to support ourselves and other women as we go through this. Laura, you especially, I think of you and the ways that you're able to really help it just in the fueling and moving piece. Kim and Rachel, with all the research you've done, your backgrounds in fitness, your backgrounds in knowing to meet your bodies and love them, embrace them for all that we are and all the beauty that we hold within us, we have to talk about it. All right. So besides in making friends with menopause, anything else up for you?
Um, this is a very interesting time for me in my life. I just, uh, always evolving. We talk about this, always uncovering our layers and embracing them. So that's what I'm choosing to do. I'm not sure how, because the last thing I want to do is be negative about it. But the reality is, my business has been very slow this year. And instead of
Mm,
freaking out and, creating even more stress and more anxiety for me, again, I guess the best thing to say is I'm making friends with it, because I just
mm,
know that everything in life ebbs and flows. And this is a perfect time for me to get to know myself better and to know what
mm.
I'm capable of, instead of taking it personally and saying, "Oh my God, why aren't people hiring me? What's going on? What's going on?" When, the world itself is kind of like in this uncovering place. So
Yeah,
I'm just, not that I'm not doing things to put myself out there, but I'm
sure.
also not stressing about it, because
Yeah.
it'll happen. I know it will.
Yeah, and I think also when we stress about it, it just I have found that when I stress about these things, because I'm working on building this too and finding income streams and ways to continue to support this work. When I get panicky, I do really, really panicky things. And I look back, I'm like, oh gosh, that was just a desperate reach. That really wasn't very well thought out. That really wasn't very like you didn't really sit down with a plan with that. You were just like, it was a desperate attempt, and it looking back on it, it looks desperate. I mean, so it doesn't serve us. It serves us, and I keep trying to remind myself, and I think you can remind yourself of this too, because I am a personal testament to your work across the board. I have utilized it. It's so effective. It's so important. And also I really keep believing that if we keep showing up authentic to ourselves, doing things authentic to ourselves in a healthy way that are good, that good things do come around. They don't always look like the package we're looking for or expecting or we
Mm-hmm.
think we want, but they do have a way of coming around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Kim, how are you, my friend?
I'm well, thanks. I'm just sitting here thinking to you guys, Laura, I don't know where you're at in the whole scheme of things, but the backside of menopause is lovely. So just wait. One day you're gonna wake up and you're not gonna feel crummy anymore. But you're not gonna realize it for 2 to 3 days. You're gonna be like, wait, I haven't had a hot flush today. And it's awesome, but then you have these new things to look forward to, like I feel like my muscle, like I'm not as strong, and I feel like I'm losing that very quickly on the backside of menopause. So there's that worry and struggle, and so guess what? It's not over with
Yeah.
menopause. There's more. Um,
More.
but I'm just in this really good place right now. I feel like it's springtime. Maybe the cloud is lifting in the allergies that I was experiencing last time I talked to you, Melissa, and yeah, there's a lot of books coming out, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm helping people launch their
Yeah.
books, and, 'tis the season for new
Yeah.
releases, so it's busy around here.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that makes so much sense with because spring is such a renewal season,
Mm,
I feel like anyway. I feel like that really I hadn't thought about that before. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of
mhm.
sense. All right, and
Yep.
lots of good things for our summer reads.
Yes, and my own book it just turned a year old. We just celebrated its
Yeah.
birthday last week, and so, I've been feeling, like, re-engaged with social media, which is, like, the bane of every writer's existence, right? But
Mhm.
it's been fun. It's been
Yeah.
fun trying to learn new things. Just keep learning.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're putting out some great stuff right now. I want to tell everything I read that Kim's putting out right now. I'm like, oh yeah, share, 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 cheer, cheer, cheer. It's just really it feels good and it feels authentic from you. So I love that. Thank you. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that. Laura, how are you?
Good. I'm doing well. I'm, busy like everybody else. I can speak to everyone a little bit. Like, Kim, I'm started to write a book myself right now, so that's really exciting. And just a lot of new beginnings, right, in spring. So for me, the most important thing is really just trying to be calm. And even like in this season of menopause, I'm post menopause as well. But that's an important piece, I think, for everyone. And I love what you said, Rachel, about choosing just to go through it, because that's, you're just choosing to, trust your body and go through it. So I think that's really cool. And so I want to share about menopause. What my goal is, honestly, is to have these conversations, because we can really, the choices that we make before we go to menopause can really help us through menopause.
Yeah.
But menopause is not, in from my experience, it also does not have to be this horrible thing either, because I love this process, and I love who I am now, and we're always growing and discovering ourselves, and this is just another season in our life that we really get to uncover who we are. So that's kind of, I'm still always in this process, so, but trying to be calm.
Yeah.
I'm tapping into the because that's what I want to feel in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are so busy doing things, sometimes we lose sight of that. So for me, that's kind of like what I'm really trying to focus on, is just to create that feeling of calm in my life, and start my day that way. And if something happens during the day and I lose that, to get back into that feeling. And so that helps us through so many different things. But that's my motto is calm and peace. How can I bring calm and peace into my life right now? Which also helps me to support the people I serve too, right? Because if I'm like, crazy, like I need to be that nurturing, calm, grounding for others as well. So if I'm not, how can I serve people? For me.
Absolutely. Yeah, for 100%. I mean, it's multi-layered there. And I think, just remembering that, regardless of what's going on, going back to those practices, and also how can, I can't show up well. That's part of the reason we don't record these at 6 or 6:30 in the morning, because like I said, I'd be no good to myself or anybody else at that time. So, because my husband's like, just do it earlier. I'm like, you are a morning person. You have been saying just do it earlier to me for almost 35 years we've known each other, almost 32 years married. Has that ever been true for me? He's like, well, no. So embracing that too, that piece. But I think, knowing what do I need in these moments, in these times. But you also said something else I really like is, I think all four of us on this panel are at a space where it's like, I really like who I am today. I really like the way I show up in the world now. I feel I'm at my most creative space in my life that I've ever been. And my doctors can't even tell me. Yeah, I'll know more in a couple of weeks when I get some blood work done, whether I'm perimenopausal or menopausal. That's a whole other story for another day. So I don't even know which one I am. But in all of that, and the challenge of that are coming up with it, primarily my sleep these days, I still feel like I've hit that sweet spot of really finally knowing and accepting and embracing who I am. And even within all that, still working through some of those things. There's still seasons in my life. One of the things that I'm really coming up against right now is those seasons in my life as a mom where I wish I would have known then what I know now, and how that would have changed how I parented my girls, and who are not girls, they're women now. And continuing to keep the communication lines open with them. It's like, there's anything that comes up for you that you need to talk to me about, I'm in a healthy space now where I can hear that from you, and we can work through that, because I don't want any of those lingering things from your childhood that you may have experienced with me to hinder our relationship today. And I'm at a healthy enough place now where I won't get defensive about that anymore. I understand that it's a both and, that I both did the best I could, and some of the things I did were not the healthiest way I would have wished to have shown up. And so balancing that of like knowing that to be true, and also like having to really embrace that I can't go back and do it differently, but I can move forward and have open lines of communication and accountability and embracing that, they may look at me at this season in my life at times and be like, gosh, I wish that version of her had been my mom 15 years ago. And they're right. And also, I can't redo that. So yeah, living in that, I've had a lot of talk with my therapist about living in that multi-layered space of like being in this midlife thing, being menopausal, perimenopausal, whatever the heck I am, and really liking who I am now, and acknowledging that layer that I haven't always been there, and being accountable to the damage that could have caused along the way so that we can repair and move forward. And it's just like the both ands of all of it. Any other lingering thoughts that spur anything in anybody? Or did y'all nail it?
No, I love that you are so aware as a mom. I mean, some of us will never get that gift. So congratulations to you. I can't be easy, especially because all your kids are daughters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have 3 of them coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be so proud of yourself, because I think moms, to recognize that your mom is a human being and she did the best she could with what she had, is very freeing as an adult woman. But it's also, for me, still sad, because my mom has never chosen to heal from her trauma. So I had to shift my relationship with her in order to have one, which is fine. But there's always kind of going to be like a wall there, because you know what I mean? Because there's
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So that's just so beautiful of you, Melissa.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I agree, Rachel. I sit there, and as I was listening to you, I feel like I've done my healing. I've done my work, but the woman who made me who I am is still, my mom. She's still dealing with all of those things, and she passed on all of her empathetic, caretaking traits onto me, and I've worked so hard to overcome them to become who I am.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, she's needier than ever as she ages.
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating to, you're looking at your daughters and saying, come to me. I'm cool now.
Yeah.
And, and I have 2 boys, and we have had this similar conversation. It's like, I know I did things wrong. None of it was intentional. I'm a different person now. Come whenever you want. And now grandkids for me. So we just try to keep growing more and more healthy, so I don't become, so my traits don't linger on into my golden years. There, we'll say it that way.
Yeah. No, that was a very eloquent way to put that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's that holding that. I understand. I mean, I think that I'm going to give our generation some kudos. I think we're finally busting down some walls and generational barriers and traumas and habits. It's like, this is not, it's just these codependent trauma bond, dropping everything else for everybody else and martyring ourselves way of being is not healthy, and it's not sustainable, and it's not the way to exist in the healthiest version of yourself or in your relationships. And when I realized how much of the trauma bonding and codependency I had in my relationships, it really shifted some of those relationships. And some of those shifts have been a little weird, like friends that were used to me emotionally dumping regularly and saw themselves as showing up for me for that, had to like, that's not how I move anymore. Instead of just talking about the emotions, I'm actually moving through and processing them. So that emotion, so I had apologized. I'm like, it's the years of emotional dumping. And for them, it was kind of like, well, that's what friends do. I'm like, but should we? Like, yes, we show up, we listen to each other, we support each other. We're here when we need to vent, but also we're here to move forward together and hold each other accountable and say, okay, you're talking and complaining about that thing for the 50th time in the last 6 months. What are you actually doing about it?
Mm-hmm.
What choices are you making to that are in your control to shift that scenario? Or is this rooted in something else? And so that's been a shift and a challenge as we've learned how to show up for each other differently. And those friendships have had to adjust to, like, I'm not going to show up that way in our relationship anymore. And if you show up that way, I'm going to be like, okay, this is the third time I'm hearing about this. What choices are you making that can shift this? So that has been something we have learned together. But I think our generation is finally like, this is not serving. And I think our kids are watching us and taking it a step further, where they're not waiting until they're in their 40s and 50s to make those shifts. They're starting from the get-go. Like, that did not serve my mom. We are not carrying that forward. So that too. Laura, any thoughts? I didn't jump to you on all of this.
No, a couple things. I think, well, for just reflection from my mother's generation, their generation was very different, even from what we are experiencing in terms of the online visibility and actually even being able to step into what we love to do. And so that's all that's most women in that generation. So my mother was born in the late 30s, right? That was that's what it was about, really, like child rearing and all that kind of stuff. It really wasn't being their own woman.
Yeah.
So, which is fine. That's how it was then. So, and just to kind of piggyback on the beauty of menopause for me is I am stepping into who I really want to be. And I'm loving this part of my life because I did do the mom thing to the best of my ability. And I just share with my children that I did the best I can. I love you with all my heart. But I do encourage them to follow their heart. And now that's what I'm doing. And so the transition for my children has been that I am stepping into me and doing what is important to me in my career. And so, and not that I'm not as available to them, but it is a different role. So it is a transition and it is something different. And so I invited one of my daughters into one of my programs with me. And she hopped on, she was all in, and she did really well. And she was like, well, now I know why you're on that computer all the time. And that was her comment to me, because all she see was me on the computer and, working away, which I love.
Yeah.
But she was like, you're always almost in a way like, why are you always on the computer? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, it's just a different transition. So again, just kind of changing that role, as what I am as a mom, which is different to my mother. My mother has passed. So I am stepping fully into myself. So, my mother didn't get to see that, but I'm sharing it with my children. So again, it's a transition, but I love that piece of menopause because I think we can really tap into who we are as well. And feel free to do it because we don't have the younger, I don't know, like all the, you're not listening to anyone else anymore. You're doing what you want to do for yourself. You know what I mean? Instead of you don't have to please anyone. I'm not here to please anybody else but myself. You know what I mean? Like, so, and that's what I want to show my children too. Whether I communicate that through words or them seeing my actions. For me, it's always been my actions. So maybe not as a great, I'm not maybe as a great communicator, but my intention is with my actions. So that's my little 2 cents on that trauma, like that mothering and menopause piece.
Yeah. And I think you said a couple things that really stuck out to me is, and I've heard this, Brene Brown talked about this a few years ago. And I think it was she's like, you get to midlife and it's kind of this reckoning with your life. And you kind of step back and look at like, all right, I'm at the midpoint-ish here. And what is it that's coming up for me that I need to resolve, that I need to really start unpacking and make sure I'm living true to myself What do I keep? What have I learned? How do I do this with empathy and grace and curiosity? But it's a chance to really kind of um, step into where we want to be. And I think we just learn over time that all that time that we spend wasted worrying about what others think about anything is just that. It's just time wasted. If I show up honoring myself as myself, the people, my people that are for me will be there. And those that aren't won't be. And I can be respectful and kind from a distance. But if I'm not their cup of tea, then I'm not their cup of tea. And that's okay. And I think we finally, it's just like, you'll hear all these conversations right now and like, what, if you were to go back and interview and have coffee with your 20-year-old self or whatever, what would you say? I'm like, give no iotas, craps, whatever, about what other people are thinking. But you can do that. You can just do that by simply being true to yourself. I think sometimes we think that we have to be loud with this. And there's some things we have to be loud with as women to make sure it gets addressing. But on the day-to-day, it goes back to what Laura said, your actions, how you show up, because that's what people remember, especially if your actions and your words are out of whack, but they're going to remember your actions, the choices you made, how you showed up for yourself, how you showed up for others, as yourself, or were you betraying yourself in some way? So I think we get to that point where we're able to really kind of like, okay, I finally got a handle on what actually works for me and what actually looking like and embracing me is, and how freeing that is. Like, so much freedom in that. But also people having to adjust again to you showing up differently than maybe you have before. And the communication that's required sometimes and choices that's required within that. But I think, so much. So I think going back to how I started this season of life is a series of both ands, of getting a lot of questions answered about our health and trying to navigate things and frustrations within that. And also this freedom of just being fully who we are as our most authentic, creative, true to ourselves women.
That springboard something in me, and it's going to go back to your watch. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like sometimes I know too much, right? And my watch is one of those things. It started with a Fitbit a long time ago, and now it's moved on to an Apple Watch. And like, I limit my watch. I don't get my text messages or my emails on there because
Me too.
nothing makes me more crazy than having a conversation with someone and having them constantly look at their watch,
Yeah,
right?
this is buzzing. Yeah.
But like, there was a day in my life where I knew I got enough steps because I was tired, or I knew I got enough sleep because I felt good, and I knew that I was nourished because I felt good, or my stomach wasn't growling, or I didn't have acid reflux, or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think, like, I had to get a new computer this week, and I've been thinking a lot about this. So I can touch a button and it logs me in, right? It has the whole fingerprint thing. But this morning after it updated, I had to remember the password that I chose a week ago.
Oh
And
no.
and I chose it in a panic, right? Because my computer had crashed and I thought I had lost everything. So I just feel like some of these things, some of these situations that we're having could be prevented. We're so in touch with other people. We're so in touch with Google Doctor and Google Cure Me and my watch telling me what's wrong with me that we've forgotten how to feel. And so I love, like, when Rachel talks about how she's just embracing it. She's just learned to love this, is who she is. I didn't use any I'm not how do I say this? I didn't take any I took one supplement to help me through my menopause, my sweats and my night sweats and things, but I didn't go hog wild. But that doesn't mean that someone shouldn't, right? I mean, like we all have
Right.
to do what's
It's
right
very
for us.
personal. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong ever.
Yeah.
But I do think that we have to be in touch with who we are and who we want to be. We can't just be looking at our watch or looking at a program or talking to the doctor and waiting for a test result to come back. We have to be in touch somehow. And we've lost that.
Yeah.
We've just lost it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And like, stop and be present, like just being present. How do I feel? And I that's a really good, I think, like, oh yeah, I got enough movement today. I'm tired. I'm sore. I'm good. Whatever anything says, I feel good. Or I'm full. I'm satisfied. I feel healthy. I think I've had enough water. I'm peeing clear. There's no signs. There's no signs of dehydration. I think just, and going back to that trusting our bodies piece, because I think sometimes the way some of these things are set up, they're set up to help us, but if we become so dependent on them that we're not paying attention to what our body is telling us about us, how we are, then we're not getting the full story or the full picture. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And a good reminder for me that, like, if I'm tired after 5,000 steps and lifting weights, I don't need to go get 5,000 more.
I love the feeling, how you spoke about, like, how do I feel? And like, how we feel is how we feel. But what's also cool is, like, if we're not feeling in a way that we want to feel, like if we're, like in our life in general, like we want to feel happy, want to feel enthusiastic, we want to feel vibrant, so what are the activities that can bring us to that feeling? And how can we feel it in our body? You know what I mean? And so can we tap into those activities that bring us to those feelings? So instead of, you're like you said, oh, the heartburn. Well, I don't feel good when I have heartburn. So what can I do instead to feel energetic or feel well rested? So what activities can bring us to that feelings that we all know, if we could choose the feelings that we want to feel, right? And choose those feelings. And so and then be okay. So what activities bring me those feelings? And then what action are we going to take that gets us in touch with those feelings? So it's that progression that is important, that I definitely see that, we don't even realize we can take those feelings and we can actually choose how we feel. And again, just back to Rachel, you choosing to go through this, which is beautiful when you put it, I choose, or I get to, versus the victim mentality, right? We're not victims at all. Like, this is how our body's feeling, okay, so if I want to feel a different way, how do I feel that way? And what actions can I get to feel that way? And it doesn't have to be like I'm talking anything, like you love being in your business and you love whatever, you love writing books. So that's a feeling you get from doing that activity.
Yeah. Right? Well, you just, without even meaning to, took us back to the way I wrap up every podcast. And this is actually how I kick off. No, that's perfect. Because it's Together We Feel and we're on the platform. So you nailed it. It was like, but it's intrinsic to you, which is what I love, because that's just natural to you. When I speak to women, I start with embracing layers, and let's start with, I don't know how to show up for myself. Name 5 activities that nourish you. Name 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months, and start, identify your character traits. Bring those things together in your journal that Kim's written a beautiful handbook. Where is it? Oh, it's in the other room. You can document all these things in. And then I was like, oh, it takes exactly what Laura said. It takes you back to the choice. It takes you back to being present in your body. Okay, I'm feeling this way. So I know that if I get outside and move and breathe in some fresh air, that's going to really fill me up. I need to touch base with that good friend, and hearing her voice is going to really comfort me. And I have in seeing how she's doing. I'm going to turn on that music because I'm feeling angsty and I need to dance, have a little dance party with myself to move some of this through and get back in touch with my body. So thank you, Laura, for that. That was so authentic. And those are resources that we all have access to. So, and they're all choices that we can make for ourselves. And it's that, and you all have hit on this. It's like, we have choices and we have, and so instead of seeing this, I can't believe this is happening to me. Well, it happens to every woman. So yeah, there's no way around that part, but there is a choice on how you walk it out and navigate it and how you can meet yourself where you are and identifying those things that you know are going to fill you up mentally, spiritually, physically, all those things. So good stuff, Laura. Thank you. Thank you for bringing us back to that.
I think it's also important.
No, I just wanted to say, and it changes too, right? And I think it changes, and that's it. Otherwise, go ahead.
Yeah. So revisit it when those things aren't meeting you where you are, and if you start feeling, ooh, that didn't really meet today, revisit it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was going to kind of tack on to all these things that we talk about on your show all the time, is learning to trust ourselves as women. I think that's so important, but we don't have the skills for that. And so I think, we have, between all of us and learning from each other and learning from, the places we are in our life where we just kind of don't want the same patterns to repeat. And so for me, another tool that has helped, along with everything that all of you said, is, how, again, I'm not a mom, but I know that there's a conversation that moms have with their kids, like, okay, you have a choice that you can have this or you can have that. So I've kind of taken that conversation and turned it in internally. And I do that with myself. Like, okay, I can choose to lose my shit and have a moment where I'm just not feeling, or I can say, you know what, I'm feeling super overwhelmed at the moment. Let me take a deep breath before I bite my husband's head off, before I just say, forget it. And I can't do this. I'm like, okay, I'm obviously feeling overwhelmed in the moment. So let me self-soothe myself and figure out how to take a step back and readdress it later, because I think that is something, as women, we always feel like we have to get it done now, or right now, or before now. And I think that is an absolute unrealistic pressure that we have taught ourselves or have been taught. And I'm just not going to stand for it anymore. So I've had to teach myself some skills that get me through those moments of anxiety or stress or overwhelm.
Yeah. And there's a big difference between, like, what I used to do was swallow it, right? I used to take all those feelings that you were just talking about and bury them. And that's not what you're saying, right? As we get older and we learn to work for it, the things need to be said and the issues need to be addressed, but there's a way to do it to preserve your own mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health, as well as that of the people you're living life with. And it's just so good to be at this stage of life, right? Where we finally have acquired some patience and realize that you don't have to put it on a shelf. You just might have to process it first.
Right.
Yeah. And I love the non-negotiable way that you approach it with, Rachel. So it's like, no, I'm just not doing that anymore. This is just not how I'm going to exist. I'm making this decision for me. I will no longer abandon myself in that way. No one wins when I do that. Because I thought, there was last week, it was a very busy week for both Brady and I. I mean, it was graduation week. So he works at a university. So graduation week means so many ceremonies and so many events, so many things. And then I also had a lot going on in my world, in my work, with podcast drops and panel recordings and working on this new project and all the things. And so I found myself, as our worlds were clashing, feeling very irritable. And Kim's heard this story. There were a couple of times where Brady just surprisingly decided to work from home last week. And what I was just like, like what? You know, he walks and there's like no warning. He walks in and I know what it looks like. It's his polo shirt and his shorts because he would never wear shorts to work, but he would wear his polo shirt on his nice like collared polo shirt. I call it polo. That's because I'm an 80s girl, whatever they call them now. Anyway, that he can be on Zoom with and look, you know, waist up, you know, good Zoom dressed worthy. And so
like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice shirt and then my sweat shorts on. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Perfect. So, you know, and me finding like, and him like thinking that I should be excited that I'm home with him all day. And me being like, that upsets everything because he wants to be in the same workspace as I'm in here, where I've created for my studio. And so, you know, that conversation of, yes. And also, I told you before, I'd like to have conversations. He's like, I just didn't know. I got up this morning, looked at my calendar, realized it was possible. It's not intentional. And I'm like, okay, but just understand that I also have things going on here. So anyway, I was feeling all the irritability. I'm like, you know, it's good. It's good. It was actually really good for him to do that. He's been so chaotic and so busy. For him, it was really good, but it was also having an impact on me. So I could have just stayed irritated about it all day and slamming doors and let me move my stuff to make room for you. And it's like, I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to exist like that. So I'm just going to be like, you know what? He knows that this is, you know, that I came back later. I'm like, just know that when you stay home, there's going to be times that you're going to have to go to the bedroom and use the desk in there because I'm going to need this space because this is where my studio stuff is set up. So as long as you can understand that when you do this with no warning, just and he reluctantly was like, okay, and went in the room and did his thing, but it was just me communicating. I could have just been irritated all day, but I communicated it. We both came to an understanding, and it's not about me not wanting you here, but it was confronting where I was. And, 10 years ago, I just would have been like, fine, let me accommodate you. Fine, let me move everything. Let me just do whatever's best for you. Look at me being the accommodator and just been irritable about it all day instead of just having okay, I just so you can understand. I know you're not here with me every day and you don't know my schedule, but this is where the magic happens. And it can't happen with both of us at the table unless you want to be a guest with me, which is always welcome. But, but yeah, going back to that, okay, how do I want to exist in this time? And what are the choices? I had choices that I wouldn't have been able to see 10 years ago. That, this is just what's happening to me. This is just what he's doing to me. Instead of okay, this is where we're at. What choices within this can I make? So because it's no fun for me to be irritable all day. And then, and then and that makes me stop and think, okay, so where is this irritability rooted in? Well, I've got a lot of deadlines. And now this added another layer to managing those deadlines because of the shared space. And so it's not even so much him directly, although a little bit of him understanding sharing spaces and what's involved in that. But really, I was already kind of on the edge. And this is the thing that kind of pushed me over a little bit, because I think sometimes, and that's why it's so important, when you're feeling like that, to step back from conversations and being able to say, I'm not in the space to do this well right now. Can I have 5 minutes to go for a walk around the block? Or can we revisit this in the morning when I've had some sleep? There's so much value in that I wish that I know now. And I think that's the other thing I'm working on releasing is I got to release that. And I talk about this all the time when I talk to women about embracing their layers with grace, empathy, and curiosity. Number one here, working on it, of just releasing that I wish that. It is what it is. Own it now, acknowledge it, move forward. Because sitting in that I wish that doesn't solve anything either. And if I wish that affects somebody else, have a conversation with them. Let them, like I talked about earlier, coming back, you're rewinding back to how I started with this, of acknowledging and owning and being like, how can we have conversations moving forward to help us all heal in the way we need to? And also knowing that at certain points, it's not my responsibility to do all the healing. It's my responsibility to acknowledge and own. And then it's that other person's responsibility to decide how they're going to move forward with their healing in regards to it.
And also, it's also okay for us to have that moment of, this is not how I wanted my day to go. And, because I think, like Kim said, she really kind of made me understand that that's what we used to do, is like take that irritation or that momentary, like, I have to shift now. And instead of having that moment of like, we would shove, and then you continue shoving and shoving and shoving. And then you just like yell at that person and they're looking at you like you're crazy. But it's just it's a matter of like, I've shoved 10 things and now you're getting the brunt of that. So dealing with, and I think that's so important too, for women to, I have to be so nice. I have to be kind. I can't. And it's like, no, we are all complex creatures and have different emotions. And the more you are able to pinpoint those and name them and deal with them and let them move on, is when you can be at that center of peace more often and more consistently.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Anyone want to add anything to that before I give everybody a chance to share one last parting thought for the day? We're good? All right. Kim, one last parting thought for our listeners today.
Come on, Kimmy.
She's pondering.
I'm pondering. One last thought. Go do something new this week. That's what I'm gonna learn something new. I'm taking a class and it's like this 3-hour late in the afternoon sort of thing. But like I don't know how to do it. It's gonna help social media. And so I'm gonna try. Go do something new. I'll leave that parting thing. A challenge.
Yeah. I love that. That's good. Laura.
Just that we're at choice. We can choose to feel good and we can choose to feel bad, and we can always change that choice too. We don't have to stay in that.
Yeah, I like that. We can change that choice. We can change our minds. Absolutely. And there's so many negative stigmas for women around that. But it's like, no, I'm going to own that. I'm not going to let those old narratives and stereotypes inhibit what I know is healthy for me. Yeah, really good. Rachel.
I think my little gift that I will leave the audience with today is to be okay with the decision you've made, even if it makes you uncomfortable or you're not used to it or you're unsure. Give yourself that permission to be okay with it.
That's really good. I'm gonna, my parting thought is be kind and gracious to that part of you that's like, oh, I wish I would have. It's like, you know what? Life is full of ups and downs and nuances and seasons and traumas and experiences. And we have what we have in front of us in the moment. And most of us do the very best we can with that. And sometimes later, it goes back to what Laura said, we have to change our minds or change the choice or even just revisit, and just giving yourself grace in that. And also you can be accountable and give yourself grace at the same time. And that's something I had to learn. I had to learn that the ability to hold both of those things. I can be both accountable and kind and empathetic to myself. So that's what I leave you with today. All right, my friends, thank you so much, as always, for your insights and wisdom and bringing us back home to who we are and embracing that as we wrap up this panel this week on Together We Feel. We hope you found this supportive. We hope you heard something in here that really resonated with you. These ladies all have their resources on our website. Go to embracinglayers.com, go to the resources page. They are all there. They will also be in our show notes. We'll drop them in our show notes as well if you just want to stay right here on YouTube. But know that there's a plethora of resources there for you too. Thank you, ladies, for starting your Monday with me. I appreciate you all. Love you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.